What's going on, guys? My name is Paulo CQ, and I'm here alongside with my beautiful wife,
Cassandra Lee, and I'm just so glad that we're able to share this moment with you right now. And we just want to share a few things that we've gone through and express it to you because I believe that you watching this video are going to get exactly what you need to hear and exactly what you need to see. And while you're watching this video, I want you to really imagine that the things that are coming out of our mouth and the stories that we're sharing with you, that you can just relate to it. And two, imagine yourself here. Imagine yourself right here having this conversation with us because we want to make sure that you really see what we see, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely, guys. So in just a couple of minutes, guys, we're gonna be sharing what she just mentioned. But if you stay along for the whole video, you're gonna realize that we are very ordinary people. We are average people. As a matter of fact, we are young people. We are a young couple, right? That if we were able to do something to this extraordinary, to this level, you certainly can do it. And we're going to be sharing with you towards the middle of the video or towards the end of the video exactly what we did and how we were able to get to this level and how we were able to succeed online prior to having no online experience.
So first off, I just kind of want to start off, when I was a teen, before I met him. Okay, so I'm gonna start from there. you know, um, I have grown up in the martial arts. I'm a martial artist, and I grew up in the martial arts school in the dojo, where my father actually ran his schools, and he had multiple schools, and that's where I grew up. And so my father really raised me to be a strong woman, a very independent, strong woman, where I was developed, at a young age. I was reading books, I was self-developing. I didn't really have a hard time, you know. I didn't have a hard life. It was very, very disciplined. It was go to school, come home. Actually, I didn't even go home. I went straight to the dojo. I helped teach classes, and then I would do my homework late at night and then go to sleep and wake up and do it all over again. I did that for several years. And then there was a point in my life, growing up, I had my stepmother. My father divorced when I was the age of 2, and I lived with my dad and his wife at the time. And growing up, it was like I would portray that I was extremely happy. I was a happy-go-lucky girl. If you knew me as a kid, I was always smiling. I always knew what to say, when to say it to someone to make their day. But I kind of used it as a way to like snap myself out of it because going back home, I was very unhappy. I was very unhappy. There was many nights that I cried myself to sleep. I would journal, and I had to hide my journal so that my stepmother wouldn't find it because I was afraid, I'd get in a lot of trouble. So I would cry myself to sleep for many nights. But I was also that very obedient girl. If they told me to sit down and not move, that's exactly what I did because I just wanted to please someone. I wanted to make their day, you know. And then there was a point in my life where I grew up. My father divorced her at that point, and that's when I was like, well, like, okay, I don't have to really listen to anyone. I was about 18 at the time, so from 2 to 18 years old, I was raised with her in my life, and I decided, I'm going to kind of step off on the edge. I also grew up in the church, so I was very, very like disciplined, and I was going through a phase where I just kind of wanted to experience the world, and I just started doing things that you're really not supposed to do. I didn't do anything crazy, but I went out a lot. I started partying. I started just never being home, basically. And at this point is kind of the transitional point where it affected me. It affected me a lot because I tainted my innocence. I tainted my discipline. It was like it started to become very difficult for me to have a structure in my life because I for 1 year straight I had no structure for 1 whole year straight. I just did whatever I wanted, and it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for me. And I just experienced that, and I hurt myself through it. And at that point, when my father divorced, my father was always a provider. He was always able to give his best to his family. And when he divorced her, everything split. You know, we had 4 schools at the time, so 2 had to go to the ex and 2 to him, and everything just started falling apart. And you know, one of the leaders betrayed my father, and we found out that he was losing money, and my father went from, you know, driving a BMW and having a good life, you know, being able to provide for us, to now we were sleeping in the basement. He was sleeping in the basement of my aunt's house, you know, on a mattress, and I was living with my aunt, and we didn't have much. You know, I had nothing. But you know, it was a transitional point. I've never seen my dad at that point in his life. And I'm going to kind of pause there. You know, I'm not going to finish it, but my husband's going to kind of tell you a little bit about his background, you know, before he met me, you know.
So you guys are probably wondering how I ended up with this chick, right? I mean, she's beautiful, isn't she?
I
But
feel like
but
I
my
need to
st-
get my eyebrows done.
but my story, how I came about, guys, is you know, I was completely raised differently than she was. You know, I came back from a background with where my parents, or should I say my family, had a very poverty mindset, right? And nothing against them. I mean, they're awesome, and I love them to death. And at this point, actually, they've grown so much. Just watching us grow has really uplifted them, and has really taken their mindset to another level, right? So I came from that background, and growing up, for most of my life, I was very much of a follower, you know, not really understanding that if I was just able to be myself, I would be able to get exactly what I wanted. I would be able to have the friends that I wanted, and at the same time, it would break me apart from the masses and allow me to be unique, right? I'm not sure if you ever had gone through that, or maybe you are going through that now, where it's very hard for you to be yourself, guys. But one thing I want to share with you is that the moment that you get over yourself, and the moment that you decide to be real with people, the moment that you decide to show people your true colors, show them who you are, is the moment that you begin to attract all the things that you want in life, whether it's in finances, whether it's you're looking for a wife, whatever the case is, right? And as I was growing up, this is how my life was, and it was it pretty much sucked. I'm gonna be truthfully honest with you. It pretty much sucked until I was about 18 years old, and I'll never forget this. I was at a point where, you know, I had gone through a lot of things. I actually got locked up prior to that. I spent 90 days in jail because of something that I did, that because I was involved with the wrong people at the wrong time, and I was just associated with the wrong people. And just doing what everybody else was doing, because I thought that was going to get me an approval. That was going to give me a stamp, right? So I remember spending 90 days in jail, and I just remember breaking the people who actually cared about me. I broke their hearts. I was leading such a terrible example, not just for my younger brother and my sister and for everybody else, but I was just completely tainting my reputation. I was tainting everything. And as a matter of fact, at that point, I was in the car, and I had realized that all the results that I had gotten because of who I was, you know, it was because I wasn't really being who I wanted to be, right? I wasn't really expressing my true self, and I knew that I had to make a point at that very moment. I was in the car, and I remember all these things flashing through my mind. I remember the friends, the outcomes, everything, the results I had gotten, and because of that, and I just remember saying to myself, something needs to change. And I remember looking at myself through the rear view mirror, and I just remember looking at me straight into my eyes and saying, I am made for life more than what I am now. I am more than a conqueror. I can do this. I know that my calling in life is much greater than where I am now. And I'll never forget, I made that decision, and when I made the decision, instantly things began to start changing. Now, it didn't change for the good, because really what happened is you know, most of my life I had a blanket or a towel, really, you know, really just hiding, you know, all the insecurities and all the problems that I had a hard time dealing with, and I never really dealt with them because I didn't want to deal with them, right? And the moment that I made that decision and I wanted to change and I wanted to become a lot better is the moment that the towel was just completely taken off, and I was exposed at everything I really needed to unlearn. Really, I needed to reprogram my mind and begin to start associating myself with things that would add value to me, right? And through that, I actually ended up meeting my beautiful wife, right? And I'm going to hand it off to her in just a few seconds, and she's going to share with you how that went about. But we want to share with you two different perspectives, just so you can understand, you know, how, you know, that one, that we're real, and two, that, you know, how we both came together, and how now we're actually how now we're actually very successful online, and we're able to do a lot of the things that we normally didn't even think would be possible. And what's best about this is that we're being ourselves, we're being real, and there's something so beautiful about when you can express freedom, right? It's so much better than having financial freedom, because when you're just able to tune yourself and align yourself with your purpose that God has for you, then you can begin to start living out with joy. You can begin to start doing things that bring back to you much more than what money would ever bring back to you, right? So at that very moment when I made the decision is really when things began to start opening as well, and different doors opened. And one of the doors that opened was that I wanted to learn how to fight. For some reason, I felt like, a lot of people used to pick on me and used to take advantage of me. And I said, you know what, I want to learn how to fight. I want to develop a skill set. I want to develop a technique so people can really just, not look at me as the weakling, and look at me as somebody who they respect, right? And in doing so, I would have never thought that I would have actually met my wife at a martial arts school, right? And I'm gonna pass it on to her, and she's gonna just explain to you how that went about, and then she's gonna pass it back to me, guys. And then in just a couple of minutes, we're gonna be sharing with you how we've been able to free ourselves, and how we've been able to begin to start living the life that we want to, and how you can definitely do that by simply making the same decision that I made in my story.
All right, so we kind of like rambled on for a little bit, about like 11 minutes now, but it's about to get really real. Okay, so I want you to understand something. I grew up, right, and I was like the weird kid that just thought about my future like all the time. Like those kids that have like fairy tale dreams or something like that. That was kind of like me. I always imagined, what is my husband gonna look like? What am I gonna be like as a woman? And I have journals. Like, I could actually pull them out and show them to you. I have journals of me praying for this man right here.
It's beautiful.
And I would pray for him. I said, Lord, prepare him for me. Make him the man that you want him to be for me, I always imagined that my life would be big. Not because I wanted the materialistic things, even though that's amazing. But what I really would imagine is, I loved people. I loved connecting to people. And if you're watching this and you know me, I'm pretty sure you can agree to that. Like, I loved touching people. I loved inspiring people. I loved being there for someone. Because all of my life, right, I was like emotionally abused. Now, the woman in my life, my ex-stepmother, she's an amazing woman, and I love her, and we have a better relationship now. But growing up, I was emotionally abused, and I would cry myself to sleep, and I would say, this is the woman I will not be. This is the mother I will not become. I looked at what not to do, and I would pray for my husband. Now, fast forward, right? I'm at the karate school, and I was a player at one point. I would talk. Sorry, babe. I would talk to so many people, so many men, right? But at one point, I said, I kind of want to get serious, and I always saw myself getting married pretty young. I just loved the fact of love, and I had my heart broken so many times. I guess that's why I got so cold. But I was at a point where I said, I want to test this love thing out again, and I was only 19, and October 2010. This guy walks into my martial arts school, and I'm teaching a class, and I'm having a good time, and I look at him and I go, man, he's a pretty cute guy. But I try not to pay any attention. I'm in the middle of a class with kids there, and I find out that he's actually going to be one of my students. So we've had pretty awkward moments where I go and I shake his hand, because I shake everyone's hand when they're there, and I'm, hi, how are you today? And he says, oh, he had like this really like smooth voice. Like, he tried to, but he would be like, oh, I'm sorry, but my hands, I was just, taking off my socks, so I want to shake your hand. Something like that, and I just look at him like, oh, it's okay, well, elbow that. Next day he comes by, and I say it again, how are you today? You ready for class? And he had just come out of the bathroom, so his hands are wet from washing his hands, and oh, my hands again, and I just washed my hands. And he would do things like that, and it was like I never was able to actually shake this guy's hand, and it was so funny. But I knew that there was an attraction there, and little did I know that this man would be the man of my dreams. So I'm going to fast forward to, the whole, texting and, where we start getting to know each other. But we decide, now I'm going to fast forward to our first date. And I take him to New York. I was having an audition. I loved acting. And so I took him to New York, and I had an audition, and I got the part, and I was ecstatic. And he got to see me in my element, in my passion, where I felt most alive. And we went out, we're driving in New York. and I look at a billboard, and I'm a big dreamer, and I totally believe that dreams can come true provided that you believe in it. And I don't know what stage in your life that you're in, whether you're young, middle-aged, old, married, not married, divorced, a single mother, father, whatever it is in your life, it is not too late to dream. It is never too late to dream. And dreams can come true. But you have to believe in it. So we're in New York, and I look at this billboard, and I look at him, and I say, you know, we can be up there. We can be on that billboard. And he looked at me, he must have thought I was so freaking crazy, which I probably am, but I just believed it. I had to say it. I looked at the billboard and I said, I'm going to be on that billboard.
And I believed it. I really did believe it. And at that time, I had really, you know, I was kind of like breaking out of my old different belief systems that I had that were kind of handed to me, and some that I accepted. So when she said that, you know, it really allowed me to start dreaming again. Even though I was very young, I had kind of stopped dreaming at a very young age, which is kind of sad. But when she said that, those words were filled with conviction. Those words were filled with passion. They were filled with something embedded in them that had faith, which is called faith.
Yes. And so I said, yeah, I imagine him like sitting down on a chair with like this nice looking outfit, and I'm standing above the chair, and I'm kind of like this on him, but like imagine me standing like right over here, you know? And I imagined that billboard, and I believed it. And this was our first date, guys. This was our first date. And I looked at him, and I said, you know what? Do you know why relationships do not work? And he said, no, why? And I said, because one person is more committed than the other. One person puts more effort into the relationship than the other. Do you agree to that? And he said, yeah, that makes sense. And I said, so I'm going to tell you right now that I'm committing to you. I'm going to put you before me. Can you do the same? And he just kind of like hesitated, like, yeah. And I was like, so then let's do this. Let's do this. Like, honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. It's not like I said I'm going to marry this guy right there, but there was something in him that I saw that I needed in my life. I needed it to be a part of me. And so that's when I proposed to him, you know, we should just commit into a relationship and just be together. And that was that moment. That was the moment that set it off. And you probably can relate that to any moment in your life. There's no such thing as a plan B to me. It wasn't like we're going to commit, but in case I have this other dude. No, there's no such thing. And you're relating this to something in your life. Don't hesitate. How could it not work if you aren't committed? It won't work if you aren't committed. But if you commit totally, then it has to work. And that was my first example of what commitment really is. I committed to this man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because something that you mentioned about commitment is, you know, I really honestly, honest to God, prior to meeting her, I used to say to myself that I just want to have a girlfriend for the rest of my life, because I was afraid of commitment. I had commitment issues, right? And one thing that I realized quickly with her is that actually the fact being committed, it brings a lot of pain to people based on what society has brought upon you, based on the experiences that you've seen around you. And because of that, you've built maybe something in your mind that has to do with, well, every time someone commits, it doesn't really work. Or every time it commits, people lose, and they lose out on tons of things. And because of that, it brings about a pain. But one thing I can tell you is that it's a lot more painful it's a lot more painful to never commit to something and to just linger around for years and years, to the point where you are now in a point in your life where you are no longer going to be here on earth for very much longer. And that's what I like to refer as the deathbed, right?
Dang.
What do you do when that happens, right? The only thing that you can think about is, man, I should have committed. I should have stuck to something. I should have done something. I should have just stepped out on faith, and I should have just decided to grab this bull by the horns and ride it all the way to the top. And if the bull for some reason stops on me, I'm going to just get off of it. I'm going to run all the way to the top, because I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this work. And that's exactly what we're here for, guys. We're here not just to inspire you, not just to tell you a bunch of stories, but we're here to tell you that if a bunch of 20-year-olds or a bunch of kids were able to do it, you can certainly do it, right?
Yes.
And we're gonna get to that just in a few seconds here.
Let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Let's fast forward a little bit. So now we're dating. We're committed to each other. It's going pretty well. And he decides that he's going to quit his job and he's going to join the team in learning how to run a martial arts business, because my father had this vision, and it's a great vision, to have, people who love the martial arts run their schools and just make it a worldwide thing and have freedom, And so that's what he did. And this was his first experience of, getting into the business side. Can you just tell me what your experience was, or tell them rather,
Yeah, absolutely. And when my wife kind of gave me that proposal to be committed, I really took that serious, and at that very moment, I remember probably making about $3,000 a month from delivering furniture. And, I really I was making good pay because I was still living at home with my parents, right? So it was very good. But at that very moment, I saw an opportunity that not only was going to compensate me very well, but at the same time, it was going to allow me to develop a skill set much more than just a fighting skill, but a skill set on how to succeed in life, guys. And I think that was my biggest takeaway. That had to be by far the biggest compensation that I probably took away from that experience.
Absolutely. I think that everything that we learned being there has made us who we are today. And it taught us things of tenacity, things of focus, things that drive you, and we put it into that, that business, and we learned from there so we can be able to put it into what we do now. And it's crazy, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. It's crazy. So we went through this stage, right? And so he joined in with me. And at the time, I was making $700 a month.
And I was making $3,000. And I thought she was making more.
$700 a month. And it sucked. It sucked. I hated making that amount, but I understood that there was a reason why. I understood. We were just coming out of that divorce thing, the person who stole money from my father. So business went from really high to we had to build from the beginning again. And so I understood that. And so I remember running the school where I met him, and I said, I'm going to build this school to fit a 5,700 square foot school. I'm going to fit it to there. And I grew it, and I built it every day, day in, day out, day in, day out. I cried in that school because I would show up and sometimes no one would show up for classes. And I really developed such a tenacity to never give up being there. And, as we got further along, our income grew a little bit. And we got to the point where now we got married. And that was the best decision we ever made. We got married. Life was beautiful. Life was great. We got married. We moved out, and we were living in this illegal apartment. It was in a garage. We were living in a garage. And we were making, what, $2,000 at the time?
Just about, yeah.
$2,000 a month. That's it. We weren't even living the dream. But we believed in something. And so we continued. We continued. And we fought. And it's crazy, right? Because I'm going to get into some really touchy topics. I'm going to start talking about some really, really big things that we went through.
Absolutely.
And I want to share it with you because you need to know, and you're probably going through something similar. But when I say it, I want you to understand that the people that were around us, that we struggled with, there is nothing wrong with them. They're not evil people. They're not, these people actually made us who we are today, and we thank them. In fact, we only went through those things with them because we were needed to learn lessons that were going to give us the necessity, the tools that were necessary for us to live in our life. So this is what happened. So we got married. We began to live our life, and we went on a honeymoon. But it wasn't a real honeymoon because we couldn't afford it. Obviously, we're only making $2,000 a month. And so my father decides, if we reach a certain level in the business, he's going to take everybody to Dominican Republic, only the leaders. So it was us, my father, his wife, and then 2 other leaders in the organization. And we went. And babe, what was that experience like?
That experience was, it had like a double meaning, because one, I had never traveled outside the country at that time, so it was pretty exciting. It was cool, and at the same time, I didn't think it was going to be such a big deal because I figured, me and my wife can kind of just wander off and into our little hut, into our little place, and kind of just create memories. And I was totally psyched up about that. But then the second experience was that we were not alone. We weren't able to just really enjoy that moment to ourselves and just really bond with each other as a husband and wife, newly that we were at that time. So I mean, there were several things that happened. I mean, I remember even there was a point. I mean, where for some reason, I mean, once again, what she mentioned is, I mean, these people are not evil. Nothing against them, and as a matter of fact, we truly love them. But I do remember an experience actually when we went out to eat one time, and and we were upstairs, and all of a sudden, I was always kind of like the oddball. I wasn't really a black belt, right? I was I was still trying to train for my black belt. Everybody was black belts there, and but I'll never forget. I mean, it was a very eye-opening experience for me, even though it was very painful. I remember going upstairs. We went to eat, and all of a sudden, her father and then some of the other leaders, they just begin to start laughing, and they're laughing, and then I don't know, maybe it was a remark that I said, or maybe something that I mentioned, and all of a sudden, I started realizing that they started laughing at me, and they just started laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing, and then it came to the point where I was really not happy about going on this trip, on this vacation with them, because it became to the point where I felt like I was being belittled. I felt like, why were they laughing at me? And my wife at the same time, she felt something as well. And I just remember feeling embarrassed as a man, as a leader, as a husband, because I was trying to figure out why, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why are they laughing at me? Why can't I fit in? Why, what do I need to do to get their approval? And it goes back to what I was mentioning before, guys. You'll never have true freedom unless you learn to get over yourself, right? Forget about the fear of criticism and just begin to start living out who you truly are. Because when you do that, none of that stuff really matters. None of that stuff matters. But at that point, I was starting to understand, and I was going through something that I had to get over. I had to get over the fact that I didn't care what people were going to say. I didn't care if I decided to express my true colors. And in that experience, that's exactly what I learned. I learned that, that one, I should have never cared what they were doing. Two, if we would have gone on, if it's me and my wife, let it be just me and my wife. There was no need to involve more people, but I had no idea, right? And I just started. Those are a few takeaways.
Those are a few things, and I think that before we go into the life we're able to live now, we're just gonna go into a little bit more things that were painful for us, because I know that there's something that is painful for you right now, and maybe you can relate to that moment when you just did not fit in. So we're going to move further along, and after that, life moves on, and prior to us getting married, we had a vision, a vision that we wanted to create. We created this thing called Powerquantum, and that's probably the page that you're on right now. Powerquantum was our vision, and we wanted it to be a one thing, but have an umbrella of different branches. And so we started creating this vision, and then on our honeymoon, our vision expanded so much so we took a napkin, we started writing it. And when we got back from that, we made it on this big board. It was just this amazing vision that God downloaded into us, right? And so then as the months progressed, it began to become even more hard. Now we were making maybe $3,000. And it got hard because we still felt like we didn't fit in. It just got hard. A whole year later, April 2013, that's when we had our first year anniversary, and we got offered to go away again. Now, something in me said I didn't want to go, but a part of me was like, I can use a vacation right now. And I thought I'd probably get we would get our own room or anything, but again, it was with those same group of people. We went to Tennessee, and so we thought we could have some romantic time. It was our 1 year anniversary. You would hope you could do that, even though it was a paid vacation. That was the worst mistake we've ever made. But at the same time, actually, let me take that back. That was actually the best decision we ever made, because through that is how we were able to understand something very powerful, and I want to share that with you. We get there, we end up staying in a timeshare, and we share the room with someone. Damn. 1 year into our marriage, we have to share a room. We wanted to celebrate this 1 year anniversary for a whole different reason than what they thought we were celebrating for. And so we get there, and at first it was pretty enjoyable, and I was going through a really awesome moment in my life spiritually with God. And I was just in awe of who he was, and I just wanted to be like, we're made in his image, and I just wanted to act the way Jesus did in the Bible, and I just started getting more into that. And at that point, that's when I wanted to share these things, but every time I seemed to have opened my mouth about something that I was passionately driven about, it was like I would get dead stares, or it would never be received the way that I wanted it to. It would just be taken like a joke. And I remember going into a restaurant. We went into this restaurant, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's called Dick's. It's where people can treat you like a dick. Sorry, excuse me. And I hated it. I hated it because I did not want to be there. And I guess it's all fun and games, but we went there, and they take these little bags and they write things. They look at you, and then they think about what should be funny for this person, and they write it on a hat that you wear. And they looked at my husband. They said, what's funny? We were at the Smoky Mountains, and it says, I know I'm at the Smoky Mountains, but I'd rather take me back to Brokeback Mountain. So you get the joke. And then for me, the guy looked at me, and he was really trying to think of what to write for me. And he puts, I'm like a turtle, put me on my back, and I'm screwed. And I was so disgusted at that point. I was disgusted by it. I was like, oh, why am I wearing this? Oh, why am I wearing this? I don't even want to be here right now. I actually wanted to go do something romantic, but it was almost as if because the trip was paid for, we should do everything with them. And then on the day of our anniversary, a big fight breaks out between my father and my husband. And I'm a daddy's girl, and I love my husband. So imagine the position that I was put in. And it was over something so silly. It was over something so silly. It was about being able to invest in timeshare so we can travel the world. Now, mind you, we were only making $3,000 a month when you had everyone in that room who was making way more above us, and we were living in a home which again was our choice. Which I understand that we were paying $1,500 in rent, and the other couple was only paying $700, making way more. And you have my father and his wife who are making way more money than we were, and they wanted us to spend as if we were rich, and we couldn't even afford it. And so we assumed that everything was going to get paid for, silly us. But it brought in a fight where we agreed we would do it, and it brought on a fight because we realized, wait a minute, in agreeing to this, we have to pay for it, which we couldn't afford. So it was decision time. And what did my husband do?
Yeah, well, I remember actually prior to just talking it over with her father. I remember being in a room, and we were kind of laying down, and we were kind of discussing about what just had happened, and we kind of went over our bills, and we talked about everything what my wife just shared with you. And I just remembered, really being afraid, to be truthfully honest with you, because for some reason I've always, I have a lot of love for her father and everything, but something in me always feared to really stand up to him and really just express to him what I truthfully feel or what my opinion was, right? Because this is just something this is one of my insecurities, nothing against them, right? But at this very moment, I just remember saying, you know what? I'm gonna stand up, and I'm gonna say something that he's probably not gonna like. And I remember saying to her, and I was like, right before we went out there, I just remember really strapping up for a battle. I mean, I just felt it. I felt it in my spirit, and I just knew this is gonna be war. But you know what? One thing I've learned, guys, is that It's if you look at all the people who have done amazing things throughout life, man, they've stood for something. They have been able to stand for something, right? And some of them have even died because of what they believe in, right? Even though wasn't as big as that, this was the moment in preparation that was going to build within me the foundation and the fundamentals to eventually be able to lift up our vision with Power Quantum, lift up what we believe in, and really establish a backbone so we can be able to really say this is what we believe in, and we do not care what you say. We do not care what you want us to do. We don't care if you even look at us and say we are crazy, you know? So this was the very moment that I was stepping into, not realizing how powerful an event it was going to be. So when we stepped out the room, I remember walking over there. I remember her father just sitting in a chair, just looking at the TV straight ahead. And I remember us going to the left, sitting on the sofa. My wife was sitting on the right-hand side. I was sitting on the left-hand side, and he was straight, and we were there. And then he turned around and we said, "Sir, we want to talk about something, right?" And he says, "Yeah, sure. You know, shoot it." And I remember just telling him, "Look, listen, you know, what we just talked about us investing in a timeshare and really doing what you wanted us to do. We just saw that it's not going to be possible, right? It's not going to be available. We're just not going to be able to do it, right?" And I just remember at that very moment, you know, things just began to start getting ugly, right? I just automatically, he responded saying, "Well, I understand that, right? I understand that because that's your thinking, right?" Or something like that, something to that extent, right? And my wife didn't really like the fact that how he responded, how he answered me, because we felt as if we just wanted our voice to be heard. We wanted just our voices to be heard, and to really for people to respect what we were saying. Respect that if we didn't want to do that, you know, they didn't really have to input their own opinion or input their own life, right? Whatever the case was. And I remember she responded in a way where she kind of decided to stand up for me, you know, and that's the reason why I love my wife, because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. You see, I have insecurities. I used to have insecurities. I used to have challenges that I had to get over. I was afraid of expressing who I was. I was very insecure of who I was, and because of that, you know, my wife plays such a major role in just always encouraging me and always lifting me up. And I remember at that very moment, she stood up for me and she said something in return, and then all of a sudden, this fight began to break out, guys, between her father, between me, between the leaders, between everybody.
So from my view, I want you to imagine I'm a woman, and I, you know, prayed for my husband, and the man that I saw him to be was, I don't know how to explain it. Let me try to explain this really quick. You know, I don't want to kill all of your time, but the only thing I wanted to see was my husband to be able to be that man. I wanted him to be respected, where he says something and it's respected. But everything that we've ever said had never been respected with that group of people ever. It was very hard. Any idea that we shared, anything, it was just taken like a joke. And so when he expressed this, and my father looked at him and just said, "I understand why you think that way. Why you would think that way." But, and then he impresses his opinion on it. And it wasn't even something that we asked. All we said was, "This is what we're going to do. So I just want to let you know that." Okay. No, it became like, I understand why you would think that way, but the real thinking should be, and then he impressed his opinion on it. And then that's when I said, "Why can't you just listen to him?" I said, "Why can't you just respect my husband?" And it blew up. And I had to sit there and see my father, the man that raised me and the man that fought for me, the man I love, and he is a great man. And I know that this situation was orchestrated by God, so we can see something different, because if it wasn't for this situation, we would have been comfortable and we would have stayed. But this man stood there. He started bashing my husband, bashing me, his daughter, that we're not good leaders, we're disrespectful, we're Pharisaic, we think that we're better than him, and just all of these crazy things that I was just blown back by. my husband just sat there like this, just like me. He would go like this. Can I just, if I could just say, no opportunity to speak. And then when he had the opportunity, and my father, I don't even remember what it was that my father wanted, but it was like an order, right? And my husband would just say, no. Sir, I need to think about that. Answer it right now. Answer it right now. Sir, I'm not going to answer that because there's something here, and I think we need to fix this before we go into that. Let's just fix this. And this is how he responded. And I'm not looking at you because I want you to get the imagination. I'm imagining my dad here, and I'm imagining this is my husband. And my father would get closer and closer to him. So I stood up and I said, Dad, don't you understand? This is not the time for that. Let him think about it. And I had to stand up, and maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but it just hurt me so much to see the man that raised me treat the man that I love without any love or passion, nothing. He just kept pushing him down, and pushing him down with his words. And everybody in the room just said, submit, Paolo, won't you just submit already? It's like every time he keeps coming to you, you keep bashing him back with your words with a hammer. Do you want him to bleed? That's exactly what was said. And in my head, I'm thinking, he's bashing him with a hammer? He's just sitting here saying, no, I'm not going to answer that right now. I don't want to blow the whole moment out of proportion, but it got crazier than that. And I was crying my eyes out. And I remember telling my father, I said, this conversation needs to end. You guys should go because it's becoming a bashing session. And he looked at me and said, I'll bash if I want to. And I'll talk to you how I want to. That hurt like crap. So when everyone finally left, I looked at my husband in tears. I was crying my eyes out, and I said, we need to pray. And we prayed as if we lost the fight. You remember that?
I do remember that.
And I said, stop, we can't pray like this. We won something. Everything that they said wasn't true, right?
No, it wasn't.
Are we bad leaders?
No, we're not.
Are we Pharisaic?
No.
Are we disrespectful?
Absolutely not.
And we started praying, Lord, what is it that you want to show us through this moment? What is it that you want to show us? And you know what that answer was?
That answer was for us to be free, for us to begin to start living our vision, for us to begin to start living the life that we want, my friends. And that's the reason why we're sharing this with you. We're sharing this with you because this is much more than just a business. This is much more than making money online. This is about transforming your life. This is about succeeding when people don't want you to succeed. This is about doing the things that you were afraid to do because you're afraid of what other people are going to say. This is about breaking from limitations. This is about becoming multi-dimensional, my friends. This, my friend, is a platform for you to begin to start living out your dreams. This is a platform for you to begin to start living your vision. And this is the reason why we share our story. This is the reason why we share it with you. Because we believe in you. We believe in you. We don't know who we're talking to, but we believe in you because at that very moment, when we were just at the lowest point, emotionally, self-esteem wise, self-confidence wise, guys, God just gave us the strength to just rise up from all that stuff, rise up from the ashes, rise up from the problems, rise up from the people telling us that we couldn't do it, rise up from the self-made prison that we allowed people to put on us.
This is what happened. We prayed, and we knew at that moment that this was our last year being in that corporation. That this, like, come the new year, we would no longer be there. We weren't meant to be there. And I think that that is what happened. That's what was needed to happen in order for us to actually move on. Because I knew that I wasn't supposed to be, running that martial arts school. I just didn't know when or how. I was so complacent. And I think God strained the relationship so we can see that now was the time. And so we left and we came back and we went to this wedding. And we bumped into this lady. And this lady, I don't even know her. I didn't even know her. We were there. And so we bumped into this lady and we were there. And she looked at us and she said, I know why. She looked at me and she said, there's a reason why most of your ideas aren't heard. They're not meant for anyone else. They're meant for you. And she said, you're multi-talented. This is what she said to me. You're multi-talented. You have so many skills. Keep your ideas to yourself. They're original and they're only meant for you. And then my husband walks by. And then she says to him, I smell a pastor off of you. You guys are going to have a worldwide ministry. Stay original because it's going to be different. And that leaders who are criticizing and pointing a finger is only because they're intimidated. And that was what she said. And I didn't even know this lady. It was a random lady. And we took that and ran with that. And I want to share one thing with you before we go. When we knew the day and the time that we were supposed to leave, we found this business. The internet marketing, online marketing, work from home, online industry, where we were able to use our Powerquantum vision as the platform through this. And I want to tell you what it's done for me. I have never in my life lived for me. I was the type of person that would do everything right for everyone else. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. I pleased people. I was a people pleaser. I always pleased everyone. From the little girl that I was to all the way up until now. I would hold what I felt to spare your feelings or to spare your thoughts. I would be afraid to say something because I was afraid of what it might do to your reputation. I lived for people and I never lived for myself. In fact, every passion that I had, every desire that I wanted to do, I put on pause to pursue someone else's dream. I lived for everyone else. I never lived for myself. And when we made this decision, I looked at my husband. I said, I feel like I have my own life. I'm able to sit here and talk to you through this camera with conviction that this thing is powerful because I'm able to express who I am freely. I have never felt more like me than I do today.
I can testify that too, guys. Never in my life have I felt as free as I am. And what's beautiful about this is that it's your uniqueness that really develops everything that you want. It gives you and creates what you want.
I want to sit here and tell you, my friends, that through this camera, you don't deserve the life that you're in right now. You don't deserve to live for other people. You don't deserve to be a doormat and have people step on you. You have thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, creativity that you have not yet used because you've spared it so that someone else can have that spotlight. But I know that you have a story, and probably even more compelling than ours, that people out there in the world need to hear. They need to hear it. Your whole life can change. We were just at a point, literally, like it was yesterday, where we had no idea how we were going to feed ourselves. no idea where we were going to live. We were prepared to live in our car, a car that wasn't even ours. And every day we stepped our foot out and the floor was being made underneath us. We had no idea what this day would bring us. Running out of gas, driving all the way until it was on E for days, until we could find money to spare us. And it was like every day God took care of us. He loved us. And I had to remind myself this. If God can feed the birds that fly in the air, that the worms in the ground aren't even promised to them, how are they able to find food daily? Aren't we not more valuable creatures to God? Surely we will find food. Surely we'll be okay. God will take care of us. It was not too long ago. And now we have $800 days. We just recently had an $800 day.
We did just had $800 days.
And that's a beginning. That's not even the whole thing. That's the beginning, my friends. You have a dream. We had a dream. And our dream is going to be lived out. Our dream is to travel the world, and every place that we visit, mark it, leave a mark on it. Visit the lowest part of that country and give. Not just materially, but give of ourselves. Our goal is to travel the world and invite people like you to come meet us where we can touch your life.
Absolutely.
Our vision is to give, and I know you have a vision. Whatever your vision may be, it can fit here. You can be you, your true you. You can be yourself. Your past does not determine your future. I don't care what you've been through. Drugs, abuse, I don't know. I mean, the list can go on. Whatever you've been through, you can change your future. You can make that decision.
Now, guys, by making the decision, guys, because if you can take away anything from all of our stories, guys, it boils down to one thing, guys, and that is making the decision to commit. Not just making a commitment to us, because we don't want that. Making a commitment to yourself that you are going to do what it takes to see your dream come to fruition, for you to see you begin to start living the life that you want by making the decision that's not only going to unlock the doors that you never thought would be possible, but is going to provide much more satisfaction than what you're actually having right now. Satisfaction that cannot be bought, satisfaction that can only be lived and can only be obtained when you are living on purpose. Okay? When you are living on purpose and when you are making the decision to get all in, making the decision to commit and saying to yourself, you know what? This is what's going to work for me. This is what I'm going to do to make to take whatever I have, to take whatever dream God has deposited in me, whatever vision,
Yes.
whatever thoughts, whatever
You can
creativity,
do it.
bringing it out forward and putting it on a platform that will not only just expose it to thousands of people, but at the same time allow people to come to you based on whatever that dream or vision it is, guys.
Yes, you can have freedom. Today, we love to work out. We can work out.
Today, guys, if I want to read a book, I can read a book.
If I want to go learn how to play the drums, I can go learn how to play the drums.
Today, guys, to be truthfully honest with you, I can spend time with my wife without ever having to see her go anywhere, without ever having to see go to a job, without ever being departed from her, unless we obviously have to go somewhere and take care of business, guys. But we are able to just be able to spend time every single time.
And the money still comes in. And you know what we do with that money? We give it all back. We give it all back because it's not just for us. We want you to experience the life that we have too, and even better. We get to do what we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, with whoever we want, and I want you to do that too. Life is beautiful, and you are meant to experience the life that God ordained you to have. Breathe life. Click the link below, because that's where life begins.
Join the team, guys. The team of freedompreneurs, guys. The team that will give you exactly what you want. Freedom, guys. Freedom. Freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And we started this movement at Powerquantum, and it means a powerful, sudden amount That is the noun. The adjective is the powerful sudden significance. So you can have a power quantum life, a power quantum living. Join the power quantum team and have a powerful sudden amount and a sudden significance, an increase of your money, an increase of your time, an increase of your freedom. Do what you love whenever you want to do it. Become a part of the power quantum
With whoever
team.
you want to do it.
We love you guys, and we believe in you.
We believe in you.
Click the link below.